History books love calling women in love very close friends, and television shows love having homoerotic friendships. But thankfully, TV has been getting a lot less subtle and a lot more sapphic, and I'm not complaining. Whether I'm consuming books, TV shows, or even sports, I need lesbians present, otherwise y'all can have it. So what gay have I decided to do today? I'm glad you asked, because for my past reads, I have been letting popular shows that depict lesbian relationships in them pick the sapphic book I read, and they did not let me down. The first show I looked at was For All Mankind, a sci-fi drama streaming on Apple TV that imagines an alternate history where the Soviet Union lands on the moon first, and the show features a closeted lesbian and even a lavender marriage, but will she choose her forbidden love or her career? This show reminded me of one book specifically that happens to be a newer release, and it's none other than Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And if the name sounds familiar, it's because she also wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Going into this book, I know I like the author's previous work, and I've heard the final page is dramatic, so I don't know if I'm ready. I feel an impending doom in the best way possible. I'll probably play some David Bowie later because I'm in a space mood now. After a few pages, I'm instantly invested, but more importantly, I can feel the sapphic tension and yearning between our two main characters immediately, which is so impressive to do in such a short amount of pages. And after a few chapters, I see that the story will be told in dual timelines, so we jump back 7 years earlier, and I'm learning the story of how these two women came to be in the space program in the 1980s. And we know how this type of stuff goes for women back then, so I'm expecting an inspiring, yet maybe at times frustrating story. And I'm ready. So boom, get it? Like 3, 2, 1, blast off. I'm 100 pages in right now, and so far it's not even a slow burn, y'all, which is surprising because the book literally says it's a love story on the cover. But I'm familiar with Taylor Jenkins Reid's game, at least a little, so I wasn't really expecting fluff, and there has been clear indications of the bond these two have, but I'm definitely not seeing a romance at all just yet. But it's not like people could be open and loud back then, and there are definitely subtle signs, but since there are alternating timelines, I know there's still a lot of time left for the story to unfold, but pages wise, I'm like, all right now, so let's see. The small signs when people couldn't be loud and proud are sad but precious. Vanessa is a known lesbian, and she's talking to Joan, and she's saying how she couldn't settle down with a man while Joan simply doesn't, but has the option. Then in another scene, Vanessa was looking at the men's section in the store while Joan was trying on a dress that made her uncomfortable, but she agrees to buy it because Vanessa said she looked great in it. And they are always speaking super highly and endearingly of the other because who knows how to actually flirt with a woman? These small stolen moments in historical romance books are always a reminder to me to take up space today. But not only is this book selling me on this love story, I'm also eating up how the book is covering the important topics. There's a passage about representation where Joan is watching the inaugural mission of the space shuttle program, and it's only men on board, and she's reflecting about how inspiring this will be for little boys around the country and how they will dress up as astronauts for Halloween after this. But then she realizes she never saw a woman doing this growing up, and she still had dreams of it as a child, but that doesn't mean she isn't furious that she never got to dress up as an astronaut for Halloween either. And I think it just shows how important representation really is. I know there's a saying going around recently of, if she can see it, she can be it, and this chapter really just gave even more context to that quote for me. And finally, when it's time for the first woman to go up into space, another side character, Lydia, points out that if anything goes wrong, they'll blame it on the fact that she is a woman, and it will either set women back or propel them forward. And although only one woman has the responsibility of being the first, it is as if every American woman was on that plane. And I got emotional just reading that. I swear every time I read, I learn about one more thing to not take for granted. This time it's recognizing that someone always had to be the first, and the weight that carries must be astronomical. Overall, this book, although it's labeled as a historical romance, it reads very modern, as if it's taking place in present day, which is social commentary in itself. But when it comes to my final rating, I'll have to go with 5 out of 5 stars for one simple fact. The book made me cry, and I don't mean my eyes watered. I mean I had streams of tears running down my cheeks even before the plot twist was revealed. And if a book can make me cry, I don't care about much else. It's getting 5 stars because that's powerful. But to actually reflect, I thought the pacing, writing, and somewhat slow burn was all good. And although I didn't love the side plot of a toxic sister and having to take care of a daughter who wasn't hers, it all tied together at the end. And I should have never doubted. So read this if you like women breaking barriers, women in male-dominated fields, sapphic romances that have more yearning than spice, and unusual family dynamics. And lucky for us, it's been announced that a movie is being made. So this is your moment to be that annoying person who can say they read the book first, so go pick it up now before it's too late. The next sapphic show that holds my reading fate in its hands is none other than Orange is the New Black, which had me in a chokehold when I was watching it back in the day. If you haven't heard, the show is a comedy drama series that follows a bunch of women during their time in a minimum security prison, and as they serve time, they find the time to engage in numerous sexual sapphic shenanigans, along with partaking in some other slightly side as well. So when deciding what book to read in honor of Orange is the New Black, I found The Women's House of Detention, a queer history of a forgotten prison, a non-fiction book that explores the overlooked role incarcerated women played in LGBTQ+ history before the Stonewall riots.
But how exactly does a prison connect to one of the most pivotal moments in queer history?
Well, Billy, it starts with location. The prison once stood just steps away from the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village, New York City. In fact, women and transmasculine people inside the prison could reportedly see the bar directly from their windows.
So while the uprising was happening outside, the women inside the prison were witnessing it unfold in real time.
Exactly. But they didn't just watch history happen. They became part of it. During the Stonewall riots in 1969, women inside the prison staged a protest of their own.
2 acts of resistance happening side by side, one in the streets and one behind prison walls.
Together, these moments reveal a powerful and often forgotten chapter of LGBTQ+ history, one that reminds us that the fight for equality had been already happening for years outside and within the walls of the Women's House of Detention. Reporting from Greenwich Village, I'm Natasha, back to you in the studio. Honestly, I love learning. I loved being a student in school, so to be able to read nonfiction on a topic of interest, I'm excited to say the least. I wonder if it'll read like fiction or more like a textbook, but 4 pages in, I'm already intrigued. When discussing why some of these women and transmasculine people were in prison, one of the reasons was for sending the definition of the word lesbian through the mail, which is so eye-opening, and the book states this was the most homophobic time in history for our country. As for the writing style, so far I would say it's like reading a documentary that I would normally enjoy watching, so no complaints. It's currently discussing how difficult it is for someone to get a job after they have had a brush with the law, even if found innocent. It perpetuates a cycle in which more often than not, either poverty or simply being a woman or a minority lands someone in prison, and then the resulting criminal record makes it difficult to find stable work or housing once they are released, keeping them in poverty and increasing the risk of returning to jail. And of course, we still see this in present day. Whether you call it a cycle or a pipeline, the effects are all the same, which is frustrating as and it should make you angry. And if you need something else to be mad at today, as I'm reading, I learned how beneficial prison riots can actually be, because in the past, it oftentimes forced the public to listen because, you know, the world doesn't listen when you speak sometimes, only when you scream. And because of this, prisons now are often located far away from people so that if there ever is a protest against any type of mistreatment, there would be no outside witnesses. Crazy, I know. Now, this book so far also has so many small, inspiring moments. We even have an unexpected love story of 2 women who met through the House of D, and the real-life yearning between these 2 is what they write books about. From loyalty to struggling with acceptance of your own sexuality to meddling counselors, not to mention the love letter. But back to the lesson. Surprisingly, in Greenwich Village, there was 18 lesbian bars for at least some time in the 1950s, which is insane when you think about how there are less than 40 lesbian bars in the USA today. The stories and the history of incarcerated minority women, especially queer minority women and trans men, are often underrepresented and forgotten altogether, so I would have read 200 more pages if they had more to say. Overall, I'll be giving this 4 out of 5 stars as I felt more educated after reading this book. Of course, I wish I felt more empowered as well when it comes to prison reform or abolition, but for that cause, I felt it was an uphill battle after reading this, but definitely still a battle worth fighting. Now, when it comes to simply queer pride, this book did empower me because I love hearing and knowing that women just like me have always existed. And this book tells so many stories of queer women we would never know about otherwise. And that to me is so fucking beautiful. But yet my heart aches for what these women and transmasculine people went through simply for being who they are. Ultimately, read this if you enjoy learning about queer women's history, especially discussed through a lens of intersectionality, because race and gender identity and expression play as much a role in this history as their sexual orientation. The next show that will inspire my upcoming read is the comedy TV series I Love LA. The show follows Maya, a clientless talent agent who reconnects with her somewhat toxic ex-best friend and influencer, Tallulah, who more importantly gets into a slight situationship with a stud who happens to be a chef. So when searching for a book that would encapsulate sapphic dating along with social media culture, I found the perfect one in Off Script. The vibe it brings to the table is a strangers to lovers to co-workers romance. And this will actually be the first book I've read from this author, so I'm excited to see if I like the writing style. But it is 564 pages pages, which is on the longer side for a romance in my opinion, and although I haven't started reading yet, I'm not mad. Most romances I read are just short of 400 pages and I'm left wanting more, so I have high hopes for this one. And while I discuss this book, I'll be bringing the main characters to life by sketching them, starting with Arabella. So the main characters meet right away through a shared ride. Roxanne is a somewhat famous 32-year-old playwright who seems to be in a bit of a midlife crisis, and Arabella is an established publicist, which I love because I like romances with actual adults, but of course they've got most stuff figured out except for when it comes to their love lives. But y'all, their first written correspondence, if you will, is a letter. A letter. Y'all bragging about text, Arabella receiving letters. Y'all not on the same level. And I know it's early days, but the banter between these two so far, I'm here for it. But how do we feel about text messages in romance books? Personally, I don't mind, but I can see how it could throw someone off because I actually despise text when watching shows or movies, but in books, I'll allow it. Also, I just realized that given Arabella and Roxanne are both femmes, I'm interested to see who or if either of them will turn out to want to take the more dominant role. Obviously, I know things can be 50-50. But speaking of, Arabella was wearing a suit earlier in the book, but I don't know if it was in a masculine way or in a corporate way. Hate when that happens. I'm about 100 pages in and I have thoughts. I'm really liking the love story so far. Normally, I don't care for side plots like work or family stuff because it feels like a filler episode, but there's a chapter where Roxanne visits her family and her younger brother is dealing with intense social anxiety, and I think the book handled it pretty well. And sometimes mental health representation falls short for me in books. But so far in the story, the flirty, fun, beginning stages of a relationship aren't really there. I get that these ladies are grown, but it feels like they're already too deep in their feelings for it to still be so early on in their relationship. It's like we skipped the playful tension and suspense. That said, there's still a lot of the book left, so I'm curious to see if that part comes later. However, there was an intimate moment right before where Roxanne removed Arabella's updo by removing her bobby pins one by one. Yeah. The author ate with that one. You could feel the anticipation. So after some slow chapters, we finally have a major development because our two main characters are going to be working together, which I did see coming, but Arabella is going to be Roxanne's publicist. So they are indeed mixing business with pleasure. And when I read this, it was like when you're playing a game and you sit up in your gaming chair because shit just got serious. I'm locked in now. And the potential for messiness is high. It was messy indeed, y'all. I just finished and I'm upset. The book had the potential to be so good, but unfortunately, this is the first book I have read where I did not want the main characters to end up together. Arabella deserves better in my opinion, and it was so frustrating to read. Roxanne was so inconsiderate throughout the second half of the book and never really apologized or thought for herself in my opinion, and Arabella was just blinded in love. Now are these two hot together? Yes. Does their chemistry in bed make you want to keep reading? Also yes. But that's besides my current point, y'all. Unfortunately, it was not a happy ending for me. I wish things were handled differently, especially with the book being over 500 pages. It did pick up, but then fell off, and yeah. All in all, 5 stars for sapphic representation, of course, and I would read another book by this author, but I'll be going with a final rating of 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now, that little library scene made me want to add an extra star, but let me not be biased. So read this if you like messy lesbians, fake dating but in an unexpected way, a decent amount of sex scenes, femme for femme representation, main characters who are not in college, and over 500 pages worth of a romance story. Now, although I didn't love how their relationship problems were handled and the pacing of the book, again, it's 2 hot lesbians. I could have spent my time reading about much worse, so let me not complain too much. But Arabella, please stand up.